And now I will show you how to avoid the forced draws as shown in the previous example. So if I'm playing a weaker opponent and I don't want to make a forced draw, what to do? Here I will show you several examples. e4, d5, exchange on d5, knight f3. And now I play knight f6. The strongest move is here is bishop g4 followed by knight c6 and then castle. But this is leading to forced draws. So if I want to play for a win, I have to choose a passive setup. Usually I leave my bishop on c8 and trying to develop my bishop f8 to g7 after playing g6. Besides keeping the bishop on c8, there is another interesting option. Although I played it once, it is worth considering. So this is the line with bishop f5, bishop e2, e6, d4, queen d8, castle, and now strange setup with a bishop on d6. I tried to experiment with my setup very often in the Scandinavian defense, because sometimes it is very dull to play the same lines always. And experimenting, you can also sometimes find an interesting options. So this is what I like to do. The drawback of the move bishop f5 is that the pawn on b7 is weak. And if, for example, white plays c4 at some point, the queen goes to b3, he can organize the pressure on the pawn b7. This is what I don't like it here. But when developing the bishop to f5 or g4, we have another option of developing the bishop to e7 or d6. If we keep our bishop on c8, then we can never play e6, because then we will have a very bad bishop on c8. And then the only remaining option for developing the bishop from f8 is g6 and bishop g7. The game continued. c4, knight f6, knight c3, c6, and queen b3. This is what I was telling you. Queen c8, knight e5, knight bd7, and now f4. You see that black has a very passive position, and this position is risky. Now white is threatening to play g4 and f5. He wants to win some material. So another move for me is forced. Bishop h5. This is the only move, practically the only move. Bishop f3, queen c7, bishop d2. White is simply going to improve his position. He wants to play rook e1 and then squeeze me to play d5 at some point and c5. And I have the problems with my king situated in the center, because I cannot castle queen side, because after opening the position after c5 and d5 I can lose, and with my pawn on h5 I cannot castle to the king side. So some radical measures are necessary. g5, this is what I did. When the positional measures are no longer available, you have to play sharp. Rook e1, g4, and now the complications arisen. And since I was a stronger player than my opponent, I managed to over-calculate him, outplay him, and I finally that game. So this is my approach. In order to win against weak opponents, you must keep the pieces on the board, trying to complicate the matters at some point, and try to outplay in the arising complications. c5, bishop d5, and finally black won. So we will stop looking at this game here.